Hey, so it's been a while since I put up a product video, but I just wanted to share this one, which is really special. This is a Simedal X-GT rim. It's modeled after the Audi R8 or Lambo Huracan GT3 wheel. I believe it's 1-to-1, and they used the real Lambo wheel to model this wheel. Same build process, procedures, and everything. And actually, I believe it. It's a really nice wheel. In fact, it's the nicest sim wheel I've ever held in my hands. So this wheel is 300 millimeter in diameter. I don't know the grip circumference, the exact measurement, but it's really nice. It's a really robust wheel. I believe, if I had to guess, it's got to be somewhere around 38 to 40 millimeter grip circumference. It kind of feels like the grip on the Sparco R383 that I used to have, which is really nice. It has a nice in-hand feel. And while we're speaking about that, that was one of my biggest pet peeves, was trying to find a wheel with the perfect grip, and I think this one gets as close to perfect as possible. I mean, there's no visible stitching where your hands or fingers would lie on the wheel. This piece of the wheel right here, this part of the rim, it's convex, it's raised a little bit, and then it falls off here and in here, and it's like that exactly on the back side as well, so it makes gripping the wheel like pretty effortless. It's really comfy. I normally drive with my thumbs hooked in, and I can do so pretty effortlessly. It feels really comfortable. Sometimes I'll drive like this, but however I'm holding the wheel, whether it's like this or my thumbs hooked in or up high, it feels great all the way around. It's really my favorite wheel to date. At some point or another, I would like to get a GSI or wheel, because the grips are really beefy on that wheel, but this is really good. I have no complaints about this. This is a 10 out of 10 for me. All right, so it has let's see, let's count them here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 push buttons, and I'll let you hear the button clicks. Really high quality, great like tactile feedback. And these three here are actually rotary encoders. I mostly run fixed setups, so I have different functions mapped to these besides what the labels are. It has a 7-in-1 funky switch. So it's a rotary encoder, it's also a directional pad and a push button. And that's really invaluable for mapping all of your black box functions in iRacing 4. Or if you use ACC, mapping your menus, it really comes in handy. Kind of eliminates the purpose of needing a separate standalone button box. Up here it has a little button guard if you were to map that for your pit speed limiter. It's kind of far away from me when I'm in game in VR to reach for that, so I have this one mapped as my pit speed limiter, but nonetheless it doesn't matter. You can map these buttons to to whatever function in game you would like. So getting back to the specs, it has 2 magnetic shifters, which are really crisp, really snappy, really nice tactile feedback that you feel in VR. That you really have the sense that you grab the gear when you're using these shifters. And it also has dual clutch paddles. And what makes these special is that you don't need any separate software to adjust the clutch bite point or engagement point outside of the sim. While you're in the sim, you just hold down the pedals and you use the funky switch to adjust the bite point or engagement point, whatever you want to call it. but I can't say enough like how nice it is to actually hold this in hand, either barehanded or with gloves. I use gloves so I don't ruin the Alcantara finish on the wheel. I don't want it all matted down and nasty, so I use gloves, but with or without gloves, it feels great. It's like I said before, it's the nicest sim wheel or real wheel that I've ever held in my hand. So it's if you were to tell me this came out of a real life Huracan GT3, I would have no problem believing it. So I'm just gonna pause this real quick and I'll come back to you with the look at the back side of the wheel. All right, so I'm trying to film this with a cell phone and I'm holding it in my hand, so unfortunately it's not a fancy video, but yeah, and please ignore my ugly Q1R quick release. Maybe one day I'll replace it with a NRG D1, but right now it serves its purpose and it's functional and very strong. So like I mentioned before, here are the dual clutch paddles, and the paddles themselves are I believe they call them contactless, so there's no switch. It's like a magnetic hall sensor or something to that effect. I'm not sure, don't quote me on that. I will refer to Simedal for the exact specs, but the tension on it feels great. The paddles themselves are this forged carbon fiber, which looks really nice. The lighting is kind of bad in my apartment and it's nighttime, so you really can't see too much here. Here is the 6-pin connector for the USB cable. I'm using a SemiCube 1, so it does require the use of the USB cable. But if you have a SimMagic wheel or a SemiCube 2, you can use the wheel wirelessly, and that is the antenna there. So getting back to the shifters, these are modeled after the shift paddles in the real life car, and this is really nice that I've never seen in another sim wheel before, but it has this soft touch rubber with these little raised ridges, and it really feels nice. It's like you don't have to worry about your fingers slipping off the paddles. For one, I don't, I see a lot of people with their while they're driving, they're resting their middle finger or their index finger on the paddle shifter. I don't know why people do that. To me, it feels like you have less control over the car without the, your full hand or fingers wrapped around the wheel. But, if you do drive like that, then don't have to worry about your fingers slipping off the paddles with these, with this really nice surface here. Like I mentioned before, the shifters are magnetic. They didn't come with any extra magnets, but you really don't need it. It really has a positive click and tactile feedback. It's really crisp, and I'll let you listen to it now. They're kind of loud, but so are real cars, so get over it. The housing is aluminum. It's machined aluminum, and this is pretty cool, like how the your spacer or quick release attaches. So there's 3 screws, one here, one on the other side. This plate comes off, and then they give you countersunk screws, and the back side of this spacer here is countersunk. So you put the screws, from the back side coming out, and then you attach the spacer, your quick release, with some nuts here, and then the spacer for the wheel reattaches to the back of the wheel with those 3 bolts, or Allen head screws, I should say. So it makes a really clean install. That's it for the back side of the wheel. Let me just give you like a shot of what that bend in the front plate looks like, which is really cool. That kind of is what separates it from the Sim Racing Bay Audi, R8 GT3 wheel for me. This one looks a lot more realistic, which it should be since they use the real wheel and manufacturing process to produce this one. But yeah, it's I have nothing bad to say about it. The only thing negative I could say is that it doesn't come with the decals installed, so I used a little bit of soapy water solution to get the placement perfect, but even so, I still managed to catch a little air bubble underneath here. You can't see it in the video, and it's really tiny, but my ADD notices it. But I'll leave it near the window and then use a credit card or something just to push that air bubble out. And you have to apply the decals to the buttons themselves as well, so you want to take your time to do it right. Obviously there's no drink button in a sim rig, but I wanted the button layout to resemble the in real life car, so that's why I chose those labels. And of course, you can map these buttons to whatever functions in game you like. Having this funky switch on here really makes this wheel, for me, it's I'll never buy another wheel without a funky switch on it. It's just too much of a hassle to navigate through your iRacing black box menu without it. But yeah, it's a really nice wheel. I can't say anything negative about it. It feels great in hand. It feels premium. It feels substantial. It doesn't feel cheap. There's no 3D printed parts on this wheel. It's really nice. So I highly recommend it if you're looking for a all-around GT3 wheel. The diameter of 300 millimeter, in my opinion, is perfect for GT3s, and it's not too big where you can't drive open wheelers with it as well, like the new Merc F1 car, or even the Dallara F3 car, or even the Dallara LMP2. This is like a good all-around wheel. It feels great in hand. So kudos to Simedal for making an awesome product here. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below, and I'll try my best to answer all of them. Have a good one. Until next time.